Hey homeschool friends, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to today's video, which is an update video. So I love doing these monthly. I love talking about kind of what's going on in our life as well as our homeschool, focusing on like my individual kids as well as our family subjects. So you guys, a lot happened in March, including kind of a late in the game curriculum switch, which I will get into in this video, but I'm going to be making a separate video about that as well. But let's just get into all the stuff because it might be a bit of a chatty video. So hi, my name is Angie. Welcome to the channel if you're new here, or welcome back if you've been coming for a while. So like I said, today is a bit of an update video, and in these I tend to like to talk about life, family subjects, and individual subjects. So that's third grade, second grade, and pre-K. So let's just hop into a life update. So you guys, March was a bit of a hard month. I mean, I've shared on here that I'm going through kind of a health struggle right now, and March was just hard because I went to the ENT and they found extra lesions in my throat. And so it's just kind of like the disease has progressed to multiple sites, and that's just stressful. Like the doctors haven't handled, and we're just kind of in the process of finding the right treatment for it. But it's still hard. And I feel like after I went to the ENT, I kind of broke down a bit. It was just like an emotionally heavy thing to process and handle, and I wasn't doing homeschool well. Like I was just kind of overwhelmed, and that made me really short with kids. So what I ended up doing was just taking spring break a whole week early than I had planned to. And we have like a number of things that are hooked to the public school schedule, such as my preschoolers twice a week schedule, as well as our enrichment school, as well as dance and all these things. So I was planning on taking the break when those things would be off, but I just couldn't. I couldn't handle it another day. I don't know if you guys have ever been in that, but I just couldn't. I couldn't do another day of homeschool. It was all too heavy. And so I just took that week before because I needed to, and it was the best thing. It was nice for me to just be able to reset, to rest a bit, to just kind of unplug and process, because I feel like with this whole health issue, I just need time to process. Like it's not the worst thing in the world, but it's not awesome. And so it's just kind of just takes me a little bit of time. And so that actually worked out really well. And then we were able to do homeschool during the week when everybody else was off, but it worked out just fine. It really wasn't that big of a deal. So that's kind of life. It's a lot going on. I'm really just counting the days to the end of the school year more than I ever have, mainly just because I'm tired. I'm just tired and I'm ready for a break, but yet I still want to stay engaged. I don't want to stay excited. I still want to bring the energy to our homeschool and be present enough to teach my kids well, because it's my responsibility to do that. So I'm trying to end well. And that's really what all of my prayers in the morning are, for strength and patience and wisdom to just endure and persevere a bit till the very end of the year and do it well. All right, moving on to family subjects. So I love my family subjects. I feel like they're mostly all Sonlight, which I actually am planning on doing a week in our life video coming up. So just to give you a taste of what HBLB and Science B feel like, in case you are in the process of making curriculum decisions, because I will review those programs, but not till the end of the year. I want to get our full feel of it. I want to get my kids' favorite books, all those things. So I'm not going to do a review yet, but I am going to do kind of a week in our life to show you what happens for Sonlight, HBLB, and Science B. But we still love it. So as for history, Bible, literature, so history's been going really well. We have been using this book. Actually, I feel like we mostly have finished up our time in this book because we just finished up Rome. And we covered Egypt and Rome this year. And then I think we're going to cover maybe Vikings and medieval times next year. Spoiler alert, I'm moving on to Sonlight C. I just love the program. So we have loved this. This has probably been my kids' favorite history book, although they really have liked A Children's History of the World. That has a little bit more of story form, but this just has great pictures. Like this is a spread where it shows the inside of this man's house, because basically we traveled back to ancient Rome and we're following a family, a well-to-do family, as they live in Rome and what they do and where they visit and the markets, and understanding a bit about the Roman army and how the soldiers worked. And so it has been really fun. I feel like my kids look forward to this one the most. And so that's probably been one of the biggest hits for history, as well as the hands-on history kits, because we just finished those and my kids love them. I actually just did make a review video on how we like the hands-on history kits. We love them. They were really fun, but I'll link that above in case you haven't seen that. And so that's history. And then Bible. Bible's just really going well. We have some wonderful discussions. I feel like that has been really fun. I was actually just chatting with my husband about how that resource, Leading Little Ones to God, has really led us to some amazing conversations. Like we were just chatting about the Holy Spirit, the role of the Holy Spirit in our lives and how he can help us. But we've also been discussing about how Christians suffer at times. We suffer like Jesus suffered for us and things like that. It's just brought up some really cool conversations and I just love it. So that's history, Bible, literature. You know how much I love the literature. So I have some books here, but we have been working our way through this one, which could be my kids' favorite. Oh, it's so hard to tell. They have loved so many of the read alouds. So this is Detectives in Togas by Henry Winterfeld. So good, you guys. It's a bit thicker and the chapters are longer. So there is a progression from the beginning read alouds at the beginning of HBLB to this one. This has more reading in it, but that's totally fine. My kids are older and we really have found it fun. I feel like this has been one of the best books for bringing the history alive because we've just been reading about Roman history and understanding how the city worked and different things like that. And then you have these kids who are Roman citizens. They're actually pretty well to do and they're trying to solve this mystery. And it brings them to all different places and it talks about a lot of things we have been learning about in history. And it's just really interesting. Really interesting. So they have loved this. And this is the one where I feel like I have used the notes the most, which I do pull them out. I know some people cringe at that idea. I pull my notes out for the read aloud and I tuck them in as my bookmark because otherwise I just won't remember. And I know I could like photocopy them. I don't know. I'm pretty responsible. We don't take the book out of the house, but these notes have been really helpful because there has been a lot more of these, what's called like cultural literacy notes in here. I know you can't really see that, but it helps give kind of context. Like for instance, there's one here that says the boys were looking for this place and they saw a bunch of shops and all the shops had like pictures on them. Like here it says, it talked about a goat's head and it said that most people couldn't read. So they needed pictures on shops in order for people to find what they needed. And people drank goat's milk more than cow's milk, things like that. And so I can bring that up and it's just an interesting, like fun fact to go with our book. And I just love that. I love that Sonlight provides me with those. I don't use them all the time. I don't even use all the questions in here. I kind of go through and if there's an obvious question, like I'm like, oh, they know that we just chatted about that. I won't ask it all, but sometimes I will. And it's really nice to kind of hear what my kids got out of it and we can discuss it more. So that's the read aloud we're doing for Sonlight and we are loving it. We only have like 2 read alouds left, which is crazy. But I also do love to read in the evenings with my big kids, which I'm not sure if we're going to be able to do that next year, but we're still doing it this year. So we are going through kind of 2 books. So this one is called The Curious Cat Spy Club, and this is by Linda Joy Singleton. It's really cute. It's just about this group of friends. They become friends because they find these kittens that were abandoned in a dumpster and they're kind of trying to raise them and they're trying to figure out who dumped them. And so it's a little bit of a mystery. My kids love mysteries. It's really cute. So we have been enjoying this. We're about halfway and we're also reading this one. I'm actually got this for my son. He is not at the level of being able to read this himself, but he can. So what we've been doing is during our read aloud time at night is he'll read a page and I'll read a page. And he loves this book. So he has listened to it on audio before. And I think it's a really fun book. It's kind of a little bit of a dystopian book. It has to do with this world that is like running out of power or something like that. And these kids are involved in finding a box that was supposed to be opened by like the mayor of the city, but somehow got lost through time. And it was supposed to kind of fix the light problem, but they're kind of involved in finding the mystery and I think solving it, but we're not very far. But it's really fun so far. So, City of Ember. I don't know if I said that. City of Ember by Jean Deprue. So, we love that. There's actually 4 books in this series. And so, my son wants them all. And we thought we would kind of read them together first. All right. Next is science. So, science. Let me grab it. So, the Science B program, we are in the animal section. And honestly, I was getting a bit tired of learning about animals. But we just finished this, so I'm really thankful we're moving on to, I think, plants to kind of end our year. But this was an amazing resource. Like, I feel like It's an Usborne book. It has wonderful pictures. It also brings in geography, which I love because within Sonlight, there's no like geography curriculum. You're not doing worksheets on geography, but you're constantly touching upon it. And so when we were going through the animals, it was organizing animals based on the continents. And so you went through the continents and you talked about the different animals. And like there was these, which I might have shown this last time, but there are these activity sheets where you had to cut out the animals and you place them in the different things. Like this is ocean life. So ocean life, coral reefs, open ocean, and deep sea creatures. And so as I'm reading, the kids are organizing these and pasting them onto the activity sheet, which actually helped keep my preschoolers a bit more engaged in it because they're involved because it's around snack time. And so sometimes they can get bored with all the readings, which I totally don't make them sit there, but they like to listen to it and they do like this animal book. So this was a hit with my kids. They really did enjoy it, but I feel like they were getting a bit tired of it as well. So I'm glad we're moving on. And then oh, actually, I did bring this up. So this is scheduled in the 5-day Science Bee program, which is fantastic. I'm glad we have this resource. We're not using it as per scheduled because my son has been using it already to code with because I got him a bunch of coding books for Christmas. He had a coding class in his enrichment school last semester and he just loved it. And so I picked him up a number of resources. So this was just one of them. And so he's gone through this already. And so we didn't really need to read it and talk about it because he had a class and he is doing it on his own. So that has been a joy. I've loved watching him do that. He just really enjoys technology. So those are our family subjects. So let me go into individual subjects with my kids. So like I said, I have a 3rd grader. He turned 9 in January. And he is really where the big curriculum switch came in. But first, let me talk a little bit about math. We're doing Saxon Math 3 with him. It's going well. He still kind of struggles with his math facts, but I feel like that is pretty typical of this age. So we just keep at it and we keep practicing. We keep setting a stopwatch like I was talking about in my February update. I brought in those Abeka worksheets, which have helped. Honestly, it feels like more work. What I have done and figured out is that I can't use those supplements to math during math time. And that makes sense. I feel like I tried to do that early on and it was like, oh no, that's way too much math. But I have that supplement for kind of the end of the day. So it's kind of the last thing they do is they wrap back around to doing some math. And I feel like it's really helped him, especially with some of those longer problems where they're like subtracting 3-digit numbers or adding 4-digit numbers, all the things that involve carrying and all that stuff. He's just got more and more practice with that and he's just gotten better. And that's helped, as well as there's just kind of those speed drills. So it's been really good. So I feel like math is pretty much on point. And I'm in the process of kind of checking through my goals for him for 3rd grade to make sure we've hit upon what I feel like he needs to have learned this year. So that's math. And then on to language arts. Okay, let me cover the things that are going well. Sonlight Language Arts, awesome. Love it. We are going through Language Arts 3. We are reading all the readers. He is loving the readers. So I brought a few. So he finished this one, which I say this every time, but this is a Clyde Robert Beulah book. It's called The Secret Valley, and it has some pictures. It's like black and white, and this was a little bit about the history of like the gold rush, and you follow this family as they're moving to California to seek gold and how that goes. And there was a lot of lessons on contentment and happiness and things like that, as like the dad was seeking fortune and the family was getting tired and things like that. And so it was a really good book, and it was brought up a lot of good discussions, and it was well within his reading capabilities. I still sit and read with him because I feel like it goes better that way than if I let him just kind of go off on his own. And then the next one we picked up, which we just started, and he's loving because it's a little bit more of a modern book. So I love how Sonlight brings kind of both in. And so this is 3rd grade detectives, The Clue of the Left-Handed Envelope. So this is the first one, and this is actually one of those books that kind of flips. And there's another book on the other side. And so we're going to read that soon. But this is his current reader and he's loving it. It's just really fun. So we have really enjoyed the readers associated with the language arts. But I have also loved the language arts. I've talked about this quite a bit already about how I've liked how Sonlight is teaching the composition or the creative expression. And it's going really well. He has a handle on paragraph formation. But we've also done things like poems and things like that. So I feel like it's a good mix of things that he doesn't get bored. It's not super repetitive, but it's well within his skill level. And then we also do the copy work. and sometimes the copywork application. And let me get to that in just a second because that's Sonlight's version of grammar. I feel like I more use that for review at this point just due to the curriculum I just started. So that's Sonlight Language Arts, and then he also does handwriting, typing, and Wordly Wise or vocabulary, and that's all going fine. So what I have moved him into, which again, I will make more dedicated videos on this, so I'm just going to touch upon this because I don't want this video to be so long, but my main goal for picking up Logic of English's Essentials program for him was spelling. And I feel like I could make a whole video on this year's struggle with spelling. I have tried so many different programs, but what they have all revealed to me is what I feel like my son needs is a lot more structure, like structure and rules, but also to be able to pay attention to like word chunks. So we were using our latest spelling program was Spelling UC, which I have a lot of good things to say about. I like how it teaches in the word chunks. I like how it's more of a gentle approach. My son does not do the word list thing very well at all. Honestly, I feel like All About Spelling might have been a good fit as well, and I seriously considered it. I did, you guys. But why I ended up more with Logic of English is because it teaches other things with it. So it's spelling as well as grammar and vocabulary. And it does say multi-level reading, but that's really not, I'm not using it for that. They have a different reading kind of program you could add to this, and I did not add that. I'm not really using that. I'm skipping that part. But these three, spelling, grammar, and vocabulary, are what drew me to this program because they teach it in kind of an integrated fashion. So what you're learning with your spelling, you're reinforcing with your grammar, and then the vocab comes behind it. And so it all intermixes a bit, which I just really like. And it's a natural way to practice those spelling words. Like for instance, we do the spelling word day, and I'll talk about that in just a second. And then that's followed by the grammar day where you look at like adjectives or nouns and you label different words. And so you go back to your spelling list, you look at those spelling words again, and then you label the parts of speech. And then you go back and you maybe make them all plural and you talk about how they would all be plural and what's the rule for making words plural and things like that. That was appealing to me. And then with Spelling UC, what I ran into and what my son's problem with it is that it did use those spelling chunks. The problem was it was chunking in different ways than we have learned. So like we use Abeka phonics and that has special sounds and that wasn't matching up and it was confusing him. And so he was just kind of all over the board as to like, well, what am I supposed to highlight? Why am I highlighting it like this? That we learned it like this. And I hate that. And I know that that's what comes from jumping curriculums, right? And so we've used Logic of English before. I tried it with him. It was too much. It was just too many rules. But now that he's like 9 years old, he's handling the rules so much better and he likes it. He likes to hear that like, oh, that's the long vowel sound for Y or whatever it is. Like he likes to understand it kind of holistically and then to pull all of that phonics work into the spelling. And so I would say what this focuses on the most is the spelling. And I love it, you guys. I love it. So what we've done so far, like we've done a couple units, and I'll explain all of that when I actually do a Logic of English kind of flip through and chat through the program, how it's set up. I'm not going to talk about that here. But the couple units we've done, so like, for instance, here's the spelling list, and I know you can't really see it, but it's part of the worksheet, and they're working through this. So the first week, I tried to do the program with him where I would follow the spelling analysis steps. There's like 10 steps in how you teach spelling according to Logic of English. That did okay. It was a little bit of a struggle with him, but what I did this week is I pulled up my phone because Logic of English actually has on their YouTube channel the author of Logic of English, Denise Ide, she actually goes through the spelling analysis for every level of foundations as well as essentials. So I just clicked on like Unit 2 Level A, and that was our spelling list. And then she walked through the program with him. So she would talk through and be like, here is our word. It's the word 3. Let's segment it together. You segment it with me. You repeat after me. And he was engaging with the video and repeating. And then she'd be like, she'd do all this like what's called finger spelling to cue if it's a 2-letter phonogram or things like that. And he just did so much better with it. And I asked him afterwards, I was like, how did that go? And he's like, oh, I understand it. Totally. That makes sense. I like being able to kind of chunk out those phonograms that go together. And I know right now we started a little low, like he knows how to spell all the words we just have done over these past 2 weeks. But what was nice is he's getting the habit of how the spelling analysis works. He's seeing the benefit of it. He's getting taught by somebody else. And the fact that it's the person that created the program, he actually kind of really likes. He's like, oh, she made this? And so it's like, she's like the expert. And I'm like, sure. If you like that, I'm happy to have that be your help for spelling. But what's great is that little video, the spelling analysis video, or that one part of the unit, it's only one day, and then we go back through all the words for the rest of the parts of that unit until the very end when we kind of go over the words. It's fantastic, you guys, so far. And I know it could change, obviously, because I've been excited about like 4 different programs this year, but I'm really hopeful. I mean, I was sold on how Logic of English works 4 years ago, and I'm just kind of circling back to it. I think that I have more to talk about with that because I'm pretty excited about it, but I will save it for a future video. So stay tuned for that. I just don't want to bog this video down. This is my update video for March, but this was a large change. Like, I didn't even show you all the stuff. Like, there's all of these cards. There are phonogram cards, there's spelling rule cards, there's grammar rule cards. There's so many different cards. And I did pick up like a nice holder to organize all of my cards, and it does help. And you know, some people are not flashcard people. We are. I like them. I think they help me organize things and remember what to teach, and it helps them see it in a repetitive sort of way. So far, so good. All right. So let me switch over then to my second grader. So my daughter, she's 7.5. She'll be 8 in June, and she's doing really well. I mean, our focus for this year was learning to read, and she's reading really pretty well. Like, I'm still having to work with her, and we still have some special sounds. We still have to finish out Abeka, but it's going really well. She's doing so great. So let me talk about her a bit. So as for math, she's doing fine. She's just kind of plugging along, learning her stuff. I feel like it throws her a bit when we learn some new flashcards, but I just have to encourage her and just give her a bit of a pep talk that she doesn't have to know this right away. We need to practice it. That's why it's part of school. But she's doing good there. I feel like, honestly, she has been pushing back a bit more on me. And I'm not sure if she's just kind of tired. Like, we're at the end of the year. We've learned so much. It's been a hard season, like, in our life. And there's just some reality in the fact that that does affect kids. And I feel like she's just been particularly, what's the right word? I'm not sure. She just kind of breaks down a lot over very, very little things. Like, where you're just like, this is no big deal. And then she just hides under the desk crying. And it's not because of the work. It's something that she did just fine like 4 weeks ago. I think she's just tired. So we just have adjusted. Like, she's my kid who just really loves to snuggle. So like, I'll just have her on my lap and we'll finish out Abeka or spelling or reading or whatever we're doing for her. And honestly, she's not doing a ton. Like I just said, we're doing Abeka, we're doing spelling UC, and we're doing her reading. So her Abeka readers. And then some extra handwriting and things like that. And so I don't feel like she has too much work. I feel like it's pretty age appropriate, where she just kind of she's done by about the time she's done with what she has to finish up. And so it's working. She's learning. Her reading has taken off. It's been really sweet to like hear her at night, because I allow her to now read at night, and just to hear her reading some of her readers, it's just really sweet. So that's my daughter. And then my twins, my preschoolers, they're doing really well. They're 5.5, and they're doing great. They're enjoying their programs. I mean, they enjoy Sonlight more because it's all stories. Like, for instance, they've been loving these storybooks. And I think I shared this one with you last time. This is Things People Do. They just like these kinds of books where it's a lot of stuff on the page. In this case, you're following kind of careers. So this is like a garage owner or a baker or a journalist or things like that. And they just really enjoy that. They enjoyed the like, what do people do all day book last year. And then they were really liking this one. So these are stories from around the world. So these are just kind of folk tales from all over. And again, this is like a touch point on geography, because it shows where all the different stories are from. So we'll often go get the globe, and they'll play with the globe and be able to point out where this story's from. And then maybe we'll talk about the different continents and things like that. So it's been good for that. They've really enjoyed it. As for like early letters and numbers, they're doing great. The only problem I'm currently having is they are starting to fight significantly about like who goes first. Before I would just like, oh, here, you say your vowels. Okay, you say the vowels. And now it's like so bad that I almost am thinking of like doing all of the work with one child, then reading and doing all of the work with the next child, and then maybe switching it the next day, because I just don't want to referee fighting. It's just the phase they're in, and there's maybe it's not a phase, maybe it's just a twins thing, maybe it's just a 5-year-old thing. It's just a challenging thing though, as a homeschool mom, to be able to have to referee that all the time. But yet they're still doing really well. They're starting to blend. They're starting to do more CVC words, somewhat. Some days are better than others, but I'm not worried. Like, that's fantastic for 5.5. I feel like they're doing excellent, and their counting is great, and they love their little worksheets. One twin more than the other twin, but it's just really fun to see. And so I feel a little intimidated by homeschooling twins. I'm not going to lie. And I know that next year, as their kindergarten year, I'm bringing them on more full time. And so it's going to be interesting. If any of you have twins and homeschool twins, give me all your best recommendations, because I'm a little bit anxious about that, to be honest. But they're sweet and they love school, and that's all they've known. So it does make them a little bit more compliant with kind of like wanting to do school. So that is what I have. March, my gosh, it has been kind of all over the place, but yet so exciting. I am really excited to start with essentials, and I feel like it really fits my oldest son. Whether we do it with anybody else, I don't know, but it really is a good fit for his very logical brain that he needs these rules and this structure of essentials. And I think it's a good fit for this season of the, like, he can read. Now let's work on spelling. Let's work on grammar. Let's work on words in general, like vocabulary. So anyway, that is what I have. Let me know down below if you guys have any questions. Let me know how you're doing. My gosh, how is March treating you? Are you excited for the end of the year? Are you excited for next year? Just tell me all the things. I love hearing from you guys. So that is all I have. Like the video if you liked it. Subscribe if you want to. And otherwise, you guys, I will see you in the next video. All right, take care. Bye.